Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Hello and welcome to Kayaking Live. I'm your host, Ike Senyares. Tonight, again, we'll talk about something different. We'll talk about Filipinos Unite. It's a global movement organized by young generation Filipino-Americans, of course, coming from the U.S. And for that, we have Mr. Von Santos. He is an organizer, and Mr. Francis De Castro. He is a BPO entrepreneur, business process outsourcing, right?
Yes.
So welcome, Vons and Francis. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to my show.
My pleasure.
Okay, dahan-dahan lang. Baka maubusan ako ng English, ha?
So, konti Tagalog, ha?
Huh? No,
Tagalog.
you can talk English. It's okay. Let's start with you, Vons. What is Filipinos Unite? And what have you done so far?
Well, I've been part of the U.S. Pinoys for Good Governance movement for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And
On the U.S. side?
on the U.S. side, it's an
Okay.
organization of Filipino Americans organized under Ms. Loida Nicholas Lewis. And one of the core thrusts that I was involved in was back in 2011. I helped to initiate a movement to create rallies and protests and awareness against China's intrusion into the West Philippine Sea. We've held a number of international rallies. Our rallies were usually at the same time around the world, thousands and thousands of Filipinos globally organizing in front of Chinese embassies and consulates to really make a statement about the Philippine position against China's intrusion, their bullying.
Okay,
of the
were you born
Philippines.
here?
I was born in California.
You're American born.
I was American born,
You're an American citizen.
American citizen.
What makes a guy like you feel some concern for us over here?
That's a great question.
You think like you're a Filipino? You
Well,
consider yourself Filipino?
I am Filipino, yes.
Okay. Let's not debate that.
You know, my parents are both Filipino. I grew up in the U.S. I was born there, yes. In fact, I only came to the Philippines maybe in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I've been doing business here for almost a decade now. In that time period, what kind of changed me, evolved me, I always tell people that in the early years, I was your classic American, coming to the Philippines, literally just in and out doing business, until I met an old friend of mine that I had known since I was 16, but actually he exploded here in a movement called Gawi Kalinga. So I knew Tony Maloto personally when I was much younger. And one day I came here and I noticed that he was always in the newspaper. And so we reconnected. I started working with Gawi Kalinga. And that was a very pivotal time in my life when I spent years here, you know, after the first few years when you see all the poverty, you see all the challenges that the Filipino goes through, I became kind of desensitized to the whole thing. But when you desensitized, yeah, it seems to be part of the landscape. Ganun lang yun, right? Then when you start hanging out with organizations like GK, and I started working very closely with them, I started helping them in my own capacity to develop systems, which was my expertise.
Computer system?
computer systems, web systems, donation platforms. So I started working with them. I had a good period to really interact with the people. You can't help but be infected. And I would say that after years of doing business here, it was only in the, I believe, like 2007, 2008, when I really identified what it was to be Filipino.
But all along that you were helping Gawad Kalinga, you were doing your own business, right?
That's right. That's right. I held a number of call centers, software companies, digital marketing companies here. So, you know, I would say it was less of a patriotic move, more of an opportunistic move, right? But at the same time, a lot of that changed when you realize that there was a scenario in the Philippines, and not only is it there, but I, as a Filipino, did have some capacity to impact change.
So could it be that when you spent some time here, you discovered your Filipino side?
I discovered, yeah, absolutely, that's very accurate. I discovered my Filipino side, and when people ask me, you know, why I get so involved in these movements, why I'm so passionate about it, there was a realization that I came to. And that realization was, you know, if I was African American and I was born as an African American, I would be given the challenges, the history of an African American. I have, you know, civil rights movements. I have equality scenarios that have to be addressed. But as a Filipino, I am born with a particular problem and responsibility and opportunity to address. This is my own.
Did you talk Tagalog with your parents?
I did, and I can talk Tagalog, but I would not dare to
With
do
an
that
accent?
now.
Did you eat Filipino food
Yeah, we ate Filipino food.
at home in the U.S.?
Yeah. I mean, it was mixed, obviously. You know, we were.
Okay. Where are your parents from?
My father is from Malabon. My mother is from Pasig. So they're.
So you grew up eating Filipino food.
Yeah, and burgers and fries too.
Okay, it's the same thing over here.
Yeah, it was mixed. It
Okay,
was mixed.
let's go to Francis. Francis, I'll ask you the same question.
Sure.
What makes a guy like you feel some concern for what's happening to us over here?
Well, you know, I'll be honest with you. You know, when I came here, first time I came here in 1996, I was pretty much just soul searching. You know, because when I left here, I was born here. But I
You were
left
born here?
Yes, I was born here.
How old were you when you moved?
I was 9 years old.
Okay.
So after 20 years, finally, you know, came back here to the
But
Philippines.
you are an American citizen
Yes,
now?
I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So the question applies to you too.
Yeah, you know, I guess I've always had that culture inside, you know, the Filipino, Philippine culture, you know, the love for your country, how we are very courteous, family-wise. So that, even though I grew up in the States, even having that American side, it never left me, you know. I love Filipino food, you know.
You grew up eating Filipino food
Oh
also.
yeah.
You talk Tagalog to your parents?
Yeah, we do. But actually, after a while, you know how it is. When you grow up in the States, everybody starts speaking English to you. When you go to school, everybody starts speaking English to you. So along the way, you somewhat lose, you know, your language. You know, because everybody's talking English to you, and then at home, they're starting to talk English to you. Then, you know, as years pass by, and you go like, what did you say? And you start having those accents.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
Yeah. So, you know, after I got out of high school, when I started working, so I had Filipino coworkers. So they started talking to me in Tagalog. Then I started learning again.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it was good.
It wasn't that hard.
It wasn't.
Okay.
You know, where I live in Daly City. And,
Of course, Daly City,
you know,
everyone's
like,
Filipino.
more than 50% is Filipino. So it's like you never left.
Uh-huh.
You know, your mayors, vice mayors
Right,
are Filipinos.
The postman, the bus driver.
Oh, yeah. And you
Alright.
know what?
Surrounded.
Yeah?
You can even smell bagoong or tuyo over
Oh my
there.
God. Yeah, right. Okay. But when you came back, you discovered your Filipino side, just like Vons.
Yes, I have. You know, when I came here, it was pretty much kind of like soul searching as well, you know, trying to find your roots again. It was supposed to be just a vacation, you know, a month vacation. But after coming back, I was going like, wow, it's great here. You know, I fell in love with it, ended up staying longer, and you're right.
Well, you know, a lot of Filipinos became passionate over the Chinese intrusion issue also.
Yeah.
But what's surprising is you guys seem to be more passionate than everyone else. Why is that? Bonds, go back to you.
Well, you know, you learn a lot about the. I learned a lot about the Filipino culture running centers, and one of my most insightful moments was when I started working with the Aquino campaign. I ran the digital marketing side, you know, with the internet promotions. That was one of my companies. And when I got involved in that, when I saw the Chinese issue come up, the reality was, me personally, I wasn't actually as mad at the Chinese as I was more frustrated with how I saw our own government administration respond. The response was so frustrating to me because I felt that, you know, you had the news agencies showing the actual bases that were being built by the Chinese, have been built by the Chinese in the Spratly Islands, in the West Philippine Sea. You had their movements very, very clear, and you had the administration playing the classic spin at the time. They were spinning it, saying, "Oh, you know, we still have to confirm." It was 2 weeks later. It's still, you know, the government still can't confirm. And I realized it was at a point where this is the classic scenario where they are reacting. They're not being proactive. And that was the most frustrating to me because I knew that if left unchecked, the biggest concern that I had was looking at the Wall Street Journal in New York. At that time when I'm reading it, it would say, there is a intrusion in the South China Sea. China is looking to acquire oil from the neighboring countries. This is a problem between China and Vietnam. And
Vietnam is one of the
Vietnam
claimants too.
Yes, but it was at a time when we were talking about developments that were within the Philippine area of concern that was not even overlapping with Vietnam. And meanwhile, Vietnam is the one that's internationally recognized as the contentious partner. So at that time, I was wondering why the Philippines wasn't recognized in the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times. And so I came at it from, at first, a Filipino-American perspective, saying if the Philippines is going to have a shot of actually being recognized in this problem, first, international media has to see its position, that it is the one in contention right now. The developments are mostly happening in our area. And so we held those rallies. That was one of the first purposes and the first drives in 2011.
You started with rallies and you moved towards concerts.
Yes. That's when.
How did that happen?
Well, in 2013, actually earlier this year, we held the rally in front of Makati Chinese embassy.
Yes.
A month into the planning, you know, I contacted the leadership and I said, guys, you know, we may get a couple of photos of us rallying in front of the embassy, but I think we need a different message. And the idea was very simple, actually. It was, can we create a song? Can we create a unified song with Filipino American artists and Filipino artists, and actually use the power of music to communicate a universal language, a universal message? And so the project began, and we made a song called "Change the World."
All right.
And next thing you know, we had over 35 artists come on board. We had dozens recorded in the first one. We have a new song coming out as well. And the whole purpose of that was to educate and make the movement more relevant to the youth.
Where did this artist come from?
Well, I contacted my friend. His name is Jordan Sebastian. I contacted my other friend who was producing a group called Q York. His name is Jerome.
Are they based here?
Some of them are Phil Lamb. They've come over here. Some were based here. Some you know very well. They're in mainstream media already. And basically, it was an effort of sitting them down, explaining to them the gravity of the situation, opening up their eyes, saying, this is what's happening. This is what the media has drowned, right? And this is the core of the problem. And at that point, it was on autopilot. At that point, really, when we activated the spirit in them, they wanted to be part of it.
You're probably just good in convincing them.
Maybe.
What did
Very
you do?
good. He was very
What did you do during that time, Francis? Were you part of the concert?
No, I was actually, you know, I was never really into the movement and stuff until I met Vance. So he's very, you know,
Persuasive.
he's very persuasive and he's very passionate. You know,
Uh-huh.
and that's one of the things that really drew me in there. And then, you know, after he was telling me basically what's been happening with the Philippines, with the China issue, with the pork barrel, you know, it really got to me.
Are you into the pork barrel issue now?
Yes, we actually organized that
Okay.
concert in Luneta. Yeah.
All right. Oh, the concert in Luneta
Yes.
was against pork barrels, nothing to do with China issue.
Yeah, we got 2 weeks before the actual Luneta event. A week before, I gathered Francis and a couple of our group, and one of the concerns was they were organizing without permit, and I felt that, you know, organizing such a huge movement without permit, it felt a little dangerous to me, and so at the very least, perhaps we can, you know, secure something so that we can openly talk to the police, negotiate something so that it doesn't become magulo, you know. So we did just that. The following day after we met with the group, we went down met with the DOT, met with the Luneta officials, and basically was able to secure the permit.
That's good.
And at that time, we decided, hey, let's throw a concert in front of the Karina Grandstand. And so since we had just come out of producing a song, a bunch of the artists were very happy to join. And in this one, we actually included reggae, we included hip hop, we had some spoken word, and we actually interchanged the program with religious talk, so that it's, you know, you put the element of God and faith within that messaging, because in as much as we have a very difficult issue, you need to have a...
All right. Let me ask Francis, how big is the young Phil-Am community here in Metro Manila?
In Metro Manila, you know, to be honest with you, it's really gotten bigger.
Really?
Because there's a lot more.
You know each other? I mean, do you see each other?
Yeah. We actually have somewhat of a community, and it's actually growing. And we're actually passing the word out there right now into other countries, you know, in the U.S., saying that, hey, you know, you guys should come back here to the Philippines and take a look what's going on here. You know, you know.
What do you tell them first? Do you tell them about the opportunities, or do you tell them about the Chinese threat
Honestly, I tell
and the pork barrel?
No, the first thing we say, you know, it's more fun in the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more
Lifestyle.
fun in the Philippines. You have to tell them
That's
that.
good points for Mr. Mon Jimenez.
That's
our,
right.
Our
So,
tourism secretary.
yeah, it's more fun in the Philippines. At the same time, you know, if you've never been to the Philippines, you should come back home. You know, get a feel of your country, your roots.
And they buy that?
Oh yeah, they do. You know,
Okay.
because you have to start telling this, and you know what? Yeah, you grew up or you were born in the U.S., but you know it's still different. You know, it's different when you go back home and really feel it. You know, and you know sometimes they get distracted by all these things they hear about. You know, poverty, crime, and you know, Vance, I, and the rest of the other Phil-Am groups just tell them, you know what? Yeah, you hear some of that, but it's not really that bad.
What's the experience? Did you get used to it? At first you said you felt like numb, or...
Well, I started doing business here around 2003, and in terms of the Phil-Am community back then, it was virtually non-existent. I'm an entrepreneur, so I've developed businesses and I set up shop. A lot of the Phil-Ams at the time that I was interacting with, they were coming in as consultants for call center companies that were setting up here. So none of them really had a long-term play with the Philippines. So I was very happy to know that over time it was growing, and we started coming together. But in terms of how you first experience it, you can't help be shocked. You know, coming from the United States and then coming into the Philippines, if you think the ghettos in the United States are bad, you know, over here you realize, oh my God, at least the ghettos there, they still have big screen TVs and sneakers. You know, it's a very different type of poverty that's really that's not easily understood. It's not easy.
So you got shocked, but how quickly did you recover from your shock?
I think it was a long time. You know,
What's a long time?
You know,
Months?
no, years. Yeah.
Really?
It took me years before, you know, there is the shock, then there is the business. For me personally, this is my story, you know. It needed a catalyst like a Gawa Kalinga and a movement and it needed guidance. It really needed guidance because in face value by itself, it's shocking, it's hopeless. When you see that there is hope, that there is a way, or there can be a way, and that I'm part of that answer, then it becomes a different mission. It becomes a mission of, I'm not going to build a business, I'm going to build a social enterprise. I'm not going to build, I'm not going to do charity, I want to help promote sustainable infrastructure. No, the conversations become more, they become deeper, they become more holistic, and I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of the Filipino Americans that are here that I'm working with today, that are in our circle of friends, because we've developed a deep friendship around this. These are pioneers today. These Phil-Ams are a new factor. They are pioneers, they are enabled, they are resourceful, and they are willing to do something. So the early ones that are here right now setting up shop, they have a heart and there's a plan.
Let's take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk about your brand of social entrepreneurship and what's the future you think we're facing and your music. Let's talk about your music.
Sure.
Okay, take it away, baby.